I think you've noticed the pattern where we started off with someone who's been with us from the very beginning, which is Brad. And then we moved on to Sasha, who's been with us for a year and a half. But Loreko is one of our more newer additions. Been with us for about 7 months there, roughly. 7-ish months. 6, 7 months. So maybe just to start off, you were at your previous church and it was a good church, but there was something that was stirring inside your spirit at the time that caused you to come and explore Paul's church. Maybe if you could just tell everyone, what was it in your spirit that was stirring that caused you to go, hey, actually I need to look for something out there?
Yeah, so thanks Matt for inviting me to do this with you. So I was at a very, very good church. Yeah, I couldn't fault the church that I was in. Even in my conversations with Matt during that time I was in prayer, I said I come from a very, very good church, but end of 2022 there grew a desire within me for family and connection. I thought church is much more than just, you come and you meet and you go home. I thought church, there's a higher calling to connect with people, to share your struggles, to be able to journey with people. And so that was a prayer that I had end of 2022. A lot was happening in my life then. And so I just gave God a prayer. I said, God, what do you want out of my life? I yearn for connection. I yearn to be part of a family that is close, family that is small. I think that was actually one of my prayers. And then, you pray and you kind of move on with your life. But when I met Matt mid last year, I think, actually we met on Father's Day, I think. Our children went to the same school. Ayana is now in grade 1. And Matt was so... in a 2-minute conversation, he was able to tell me what Pulse was about, which is so powerful. He said to me, hey man, what's your name? I told him my name, and he said he was a pastor, and I was a bit shocked because Matt doesn't quite look like a pastor. Maybe you guys, to you he does. But to me he just looks like a really cool, regular dude, So he told me about Pulse, that the church is about really journeying towards brokenness to restoration. And that really appealed to me. He told me the church is very small. He laughed when he said that. And he said, yeah, you need to, if you want to and you desire, come visit. And then he sowed a seed that then germinated maybe 2 months from that time. And I came, and you come to church for the first time, and then I came again, and I came again, and I think God had started a work within me.
Sure. And I mean, obviously you've been with us now, you've been immersed in our community. You don't just attend Sunday church, you're here serving, you're here attending men's breakfasts, and you want to be integrated in community as well. But in your own heart, what would you say God has been doing inside your heart in your journey with us? Because it is no coincidence that when God works in individuals' lives, the rest of the church is impacted, right? So what have you experienced here in the last 6 to 7 months, and how has that maybe had an effect on your own journey to wholeness?
Who remembers the series? I think we're still part of it, A New You. and for me, that's a testimony for me. God has been forming a new me in me. Sometimes when you're going through a lot of brokenness, you're looking for God to restore things that are around you, people that are around you, circumstances that are around you. But when I started coming to Pulse, I felt God was calling me to a work deep within me. And I've been a Christian for decades, I was practically born a Christian, that's how I think of it. My parents are Christian, my grandparents are Christian. I had that heritage, which is often hard for people like me who are born into it, because it becomes over familiar. But I got to a point where I think God was calling me to become someone new in Him, to discover my joy in Him, to discover my love in Him, but more importantly, my acceptance in Him. There are a lot of things that happened growing up around rejection that I didn't know had created a seed within me, not to really love myself, not to really understand my identity in Jesus Christ. But my journey with Pulse has really been that of God renewing me and telling me that, man, I love you, and you are wonderful, and you are gifted, and you are great as you are. I don't need you to do anything for me. A lot of us come from that acts-based, service to God, but God said, as you are loved, and you are special to me. And God has just been renewing me, my identity and how I see myself, and that has been so powerful.
Sure. I mean, that I believe cannot happen outside of church community.
Yeah.
Right? In our one-on-one relationship with God, we are not able to discover who we truly are. So maybe in your own words, the new Loreko that you're becoming, what would you say is a stark difference between who you are today versus say who you are 6 months ago? What does that look like for you in your own words?
Yeah, I'll sort of keep going back to church culture. You know, sometimes church culture teaches you to hide, you know, especially if you come from, like, I've never been in a church this small, I'm sorry. This is the smallest church I've ever been a part of, and I've been to church since birth, you know. And that's what's special about it. I remember my first Sunday here, Daryl came quickly to me, and then Michael came, and that was like a quarter of the church. You know, and they were just so interested in me, and it so happened that the following week was a men's ministry meeting, and we went to the men's ministry meeting. I remember looking around, there's a couple of us, and I just felt free to speak and not to hide, and to share my burdens and to share my brokenness. And these were men who were there. You know, one of the things that I've always said after a couple of times I've come to Pulse is it's a church where you're journeying with people who are journeying. And they are sharing that journey with them. I remember Daryl shared his journey, Michael shared his journey, SK. A lot of the guys are sharing their journeys, and it's so special to me because coming from big churches, and this is not a knock on big churches, there's a lot of value in them. But sometimes you learn to hide and to do routine. And so it's been so wonderful coming to Pulse, and you're journeying with people, and people are always bringing you back to scripture. And these are very strong core men who are sharing their journey with me. We're able to pray together, we're able to meet together. I remember even during the rugby, the World Cup, you know, I think that period I went to Matt's place maybe 8 times. And yeah, it was very strange, but it was wonderful. And it was lovely to meet everyone, Brad and Sylvester, and these are great people who are honest with where they are. And that's what I needed, you know. I didn't need to come to a church and feel like I have to perform or put on a face or a mask. But come to church as I am, you know, this is what's happening in my life, and this is what I'm expecting, and I'm praying for, and I'm sharing this with you guys, and they're doing the same. And God has just been doing a wonderful work in me through the community here. Yeah.
Sure, and maybe just one last question. The one thing I think that stood out for us about you is just your openness and your desire for intimacy and for connection, you know, because often we can get lost in church. Even in a smallest church like ours, you can get lost, you know, when you have a church of, you know, between 50 and 60 people, and, you know, half of them are missing almost every Sunday, it's like, it almost feels like I'm exposed, you know, because all of a sudden I'm here. But why do you think it's important for Christians to actually be open about what's going on deep inside their hearts? What is it about that actually leads to transformation, do you think? Because I believe that's one of your strong points. So why do you think that is so important? Because in this series we're talking about it, we get anxious because we lack intimacy in our relationship. So why do you think that intention of really being intimate with people, the intention of saying, I'm not going to hide anything, why do you think that is so important for our growth?
God has created us to be in community. You know, you look at even from the beginning, Moses, you know, the law was given to Moses not for himself or for his loved ones. It was given to the nation of Israel, and Christ came for us all. I think Christ does his best work when we're together and in community. And I've often found the size of this church is really super power, because it's easier to connect with someone who's right next to you than someone who is like, you know, 7 rows back. And I think God is interested in us coming together. I mean, the world is so divided at this point. I remember during COVID, just before COVID, I had gone to do some work in the US, and I remember families were divided because of the vaccine. Like the work of the enemy has always been to divide people. Even right now, what's happening with Israel and all of that, it's all for division. The enemy is always trying to bring people apart. But God's ministry is always of reconciliation and bringing people together. When I am in pain, and I reach out to you, I know that I'm heard, and I know that we can both cry together, and you can send me back to the cross. But when I'm alone, a lot of TDN ministry, I remember, some of us have had some TDN ministry, you're frustrated with church, and like, no, God is still in my home. But, that never really works out well, because where who do you turn to? Where's community? Who are the people who know you deep inside out, know what you're struggling with, know your secret sins, It's always so powerful to be able to be exposed, or maybe even naked is the word, not naked, but yeah, exposed, because then people can love you,
Yes.
You can know that you are loved when you know that, okay, I've told him this about me, and it's revealed so much, and I feel so naked right now, but he loves me nonetheless. Then that's how love is able to come in, is when you're exposed. And I think a lot of us, when we come to church, that's what we're scared of. We're scared of being exposed. But actually, that's your breakthrough. When you're exposed, that's where Christ can come in and say, as you feel as you are, that's the person that I love, and that's the person that I'm restoring.
Yes.
So it's like, it's so important. I, like many of you sometimes, like, some Sunday mornings you wake up and you're like, I don't know if I want to go to church today. It happens to me as well. I don't know if I want to go to church today. But when I remember the benefits and the fruits of just coming to church and seeing someone smile and worship, worship here is wonderful. You're closing your eyes and just really remembering the love of Christ. That, okay, I'm not alone, there are people that I'm journeying with. And that's also another important thing. You are not alone, Liverpool supporters. You're not alone, you're not alone. You're not alone, and the lie of the devil. and one of the biggest lies of the devil is that you are alone. And the devil wants you alone. And that's a big trap, is that you're alone. But you're not alone. That's why there's church. It's that you can come and not be alone. You understand? You can share your burdens, share your victories with people. You can get prayer, you can get to worship amongst people. But most importantly, you can connect to the Lord, who sees you when you're down and who sees you when you're up. So I found it to be a wonderful gift here. It's humility. It's a church of humility. You understand? And a lot of big churches lack humility, because you get to see what God has done, and that takes you away from Him. But Pulse is really a church of humility, and I found even the way people share their lives, it comes from a humble place, and the need for God. So I've been really blessed by that.
Yeah. No, thanks, man. Thanks for sharing, and we're so encouraged by you and your walk with God, and to see you growing, intentionally taking steps to grow as a Christian, as a husband, as a father, and so we're grateful for you. So thank you for just journeying with us. As much as you're grateful for us, we're grateful for you as well. So thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.